Hi everyone and welcome to Nervous Nessie. Today we are talking about booking rental cars, so stay tuned. When it comes to booking a rental car, you want to think about several different options. There's tons of companies out there that you can choose from: Hertz, Avis, Enterprise. The list goes on and on and on. And we're not going to talk about a specific one because across the board they're kind of the same. Some may have certain features versus others. You may have more benefits from one than the other. But today we're going to talk about booking a rental car in general and the different tips and tricks that can go along with that. Now, one thing you want to consider is booking your rental car way in advance. Obviously, you want to book your trip first, and your rental car may be one of the last things that you book. But you do want to book it in advance instead of waiting to the last minute right before your trip, because they can run out of rental cars. It happens. Maybe there's a certain car you're looking for that you want to rent for whatever reason. They could run out of that vehicle, and then what are you going to do? You have pretty much no other choice than to try and shop around to a competitor, or they may not have anything either. So it's always best to try and book your rental car way in advance, and that way you don't have to worry about anything. Obviously, with cars, there are plenty of options out there that you can rent. It could be a compact car, a small sedan. It could be a hybrid or electric car that you want to rent. It could be a truck, and it could even be an SUV. It really depends on your specific situation for your trip. Depends on how many people are going to be riding in the car. If you have a group that is going on a trip, let's say your family and another family, you might need to rent a passenger van. That way everyone can ride together. But one thing that you want to make sure when it comes to booking a vehicle that you want to drive around in is book a vehicle you're comfortable driving. If you drive a small compact car and you go on vacation and you want to rent an SUV, that spells disaster. Obviously, if you're going with several people and you have different types of luggage and it's not going to fit in a small car, you may have no choice than getting a van or getting an SUV. But if you think about it, if you're used to driving a small car in traffic and now you're driving this huge car, there's a lot of adjustments that go along with that. Parking. It's going to be harder to park a larger vehicle. Just the lanes. If the vehicle is wider and you're going in a narrow lane, you've got to be able to accommodate for that. So it's always a good idea to try and book a car that's similar, if not exactly like, the car that you currently drive every day. Another thing to consider is what you're doing on your trip. Are you going to a place that is in the snow? You're going to need chains on your tires, whether it's a small compact car or an SUV. So when you book those types of vehicle in that type of weather, look and see, are chains included? Is that going to be an additional cost that I haven't thought of? Is someone going to put the chains on for me, or do I have to do it myself? You have to look into all those different factors. Another thing to consider on your trip with what you're doing is, are you going to be doing any type of off-roading? A lot of times the rental car companies won't let you do off-roading in the vehicles that you rent. It's just a safety issue and it can be a huge liability. So if you're wanting to do some type of off-roading, you may have to book your rental car for your trip and then go to a different company that does allow off-roading for their vehicles and rent those as well. When I went to Hawaii, I rented a Jeep Wrangler, and I highly recommend that that is the type of vehicle you rent when you go to Hawaii if you can. I was able to take the windows and doors off and enjoy the beautiful weather. I was also able to do some light off-roading. Now, there was a road in Hawaii that was forbidden to be drove on if you had a rental car because it is a huge liability. But there were some more secluded beaches that I could easily drive on with a Jeep and get to, and nobody else could go to it. It was so funny seeing people in little sedans trying to drive out there, and they would get stuck. And I was able to go around them and experience these places that most people don't get to go to. So you have to look into what you're doing on your trip, and does the vehicle work for you for what you're going to do. Now, when you book your rental vehicle, you will probably have to look at insurance. Obviously, you have to have insurance to be able to drive a vehicle. And a lot of times they want to try and sell you the insurance through the rental company. And that's a great option. But also look at your own personal vehicle insurance. Whatever company you use every day on your vehicle, does your insurance company also cover rentals? So before you book your rental car, inquire about that with your insurance company. If I book through a various company on a different vehicle and something happens, is it covered with my current plan? Now, if it isn't, you will want to buy the insurance through the rental company. You have to have some type of insurance because anything can happen. You may be the best driver in the world, but everyone else is not. Even if you don't get into an actual accident, if you're at your hotel or wherever you're staying and your vehicle is parked, someone could hit you. Someone could open their car door and hit the side and cause a dent or a scratch in that rental vehicle, and you can say all day long, I didn't do it. The rental company doesn't care. All they know is that you brought back their vehicle and it wasn't in the condition that you left with it. And that brings me to the point of when you book your rental car and you get there to get your vehicle, walk around the vehicle. Usually they do this anyway, but in case they don't, do this for yourself. You'll want to walk around and look and see if there's any type of dents or scratches or something that just looks off with this vehicle. Imagine that you're actually wanting to purchase the vehicle. Would you purchase it with a dent in the side of it? Probably not. So if you notice any kind of problems with the vehicle before you drive it off the lot, make note of it and talk to the people that work there and say, hey, I noticed there's a scratch on this door. I want it noted that scratch was there before I left. You can even take pictures of it just for your own record. That way you have a date and time stamp. Maybe even try to get the location in the background that you are in the parking lot or parking structure where the rental company is at to prove that it was there before you drove off. Even if they note it on the piece of paper that it was there and you bring it back, they could be shady and say, it wasn't there. By having those pictures ahead of time, you can say, yes, it was. And they can't put that on you. Now, before you decide to drive out of the lot with your rented vehicle and you've done your walk around, you also want to get the vehicle set up for yourself. Who knows who drove the car before you? It could be someone who was shorter and so the seat is pulled really forward and you're tall, or vice versa. You need to adjust your seats, adjust your mirrors, get everything adjusted to where you feel comfortable driving it before you even move this vehicle. Because if you're trying to do it while you're driving, it's a disaster. You could cause an accident or something can go wrong. And you get to try and make sure that everything works on the vehicle. If you get in the vehicle and the mirrors don't adjust, you need to know that before you leave the lot, because You could have blind spots and not realize it. If the car has an Apple CarPlay or Android CarPlay, some type of Bluetooth setup, you want to go ahead and set that up before you move your car. It's always a good idea to have any type of addresses, whether it's for your hotel or any of the different excursions or places you're going to go on your trip, have those programmed into your phone. And that way, when you pair up your phone with the vehicle, you're not sitting there trying to put it in and you're wasting time. Just do this before your trip. Go onto whatever app it is that you use, whether it's an app like Waze or an app like Google Maps. Go ahead and put those addresses into your phone and have those ready to go so you're not wasting time during your trip. When you go to return your car, you want to unpair your phone from the vehicle. And you may have to play around between your phone and the vehicle to take that out, but you don't want to leave your information in the vehicle for the next person to see. This could include your contacts. It could include any type of personal information. So you want to make sure that when you go to return the vehicle, that you unpair your phone from that vehicle. You also want to do a once-over of the car when you go to return it. If someone is traveling with you, have them do this as well. Look in all the pockets, look in the back of the vehicle, look, all the glove compartment box, all the different nooks and crannies of the vehicle, and make sure you're not leaving anything behind. It's so easy for us to forget some of the simplest little things. Maybe it's your sunglasses and you kept them up in the sunglass holder, but you're returning your car at night and you forget that your sunglasses are sitting up there. You could reach out to the company and say, hey, I left my stuff in there, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get it back. A lot of times the next person takes over that vehicle and away your stuff goes, and they decide to keep it for themselves. So it's always a good idea to walk over the car, check for anything that you might have left behind, and while you're at it, clean out the car. You may have candy wrappers or empty bottles or something, some kind of trash in the vehicle. You want to clean that out because really, it's just a nice thing to do. Now, if you're going to be traveling to an unfamiliar area, maybe it's a different state, maybe it's a different country. A lot of countries do drive on opposite side of the road of whatever country you're from, and you have to have a special license to be able to drive in those countries. If that's the case, before your trip, check to see. Sometimes it's better in those countries, if you're driving on the opposite side of the road, to just not even get a rental vehicle and let everybody else that does drive like that, let them do the driving for you. But even if you're driving within your own country, but it's in a new area, maybe a new state or province or whatever it is for your country, learn the laws for that area. Not every state is the same. For example, in the United States, California is the only state in all of the 50 states that allows lane splitting for motorcycles. What that means is you have your lanes where your vehicles are going, the motorcycle can ride between the cars. And if you're not used to that, the first time you have a motorcycle blow the doors off of your car can be scary. And by knowing that too, if your vehicle is too far over, then you have the chance of a motorcycle hitting your car, or even worse, you hitting them. So you want to know the laws in the state that you're going to or the location you're going to. Same thing goes for just funky roads. It could be maybe the location you're going to has a lot of roundabouts, but you don't have roundabouts where you live. That can be really confusing. If you want to see something kind of amusing, just go on to YouTube and search roundabout driving and see people driving in the most awkward, wrong ways possible when it comes to roundabouts. You have to understand the mechanisms of how roundabouts work. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a car accident. Same thing goes with parallel parking. In a lot of big cities, you do have a lot of parallel parking. So if you're not used to parallel parking, this can be a problem because you could hit the car that's in front, behind, you could hold up traffic and you have people honking at you and you're trying to do this parking that you never really do in your hometown, and it just builds up more anxiety that you don't really need. Another thing to think about is with the vehicle, yeah, you're paying to rent the vehicle, but you're also having to pay for other things too. This could include the gas for the vehicle, which a lot of times the companies will either give you the option of paying a flat fee for the gas that you use, or you can fill up the car before you turn it in. This really boils down to a matter of what's important to you. Is it time and convenience and anxiety, or is it the cost of money? For me, I usually do the just pay the flat fee and let them deal with the gas versus me having to drive around and find a gas station, which probably has expensive gas, especially now, anyways, having to worry about making sure I'm putting the correct gas in this vehicle that I'm not used to driving, because some vehicles, they have the more premium gas. Some cars can use the less premium gas, but you have to know which one goes in this type of vehicle. And heaven forbid you get a diesel and you need to put gas in and you accidentally put regular gas in there. That's a disaster. Think about what works for you as far as the gas goes. If you want to try and save a few extra bucks, you could probably fill up the vehicle yourself. But if you don't want to deal with it, just pay the flat rate and call it a day. Another thing to think about is you have to park the vehicle. You may be going to a location on your trip and you need to pay a parking fee. Parking lot, parking garage. So you're also going to have to pay for those fees in addition to the gas, in addition to the vehicle. All of these things can add up. Even a lot of hotels have the valet service, or even if they don't have a valet, they have where you have to pay per night to park your vehicle there. Since all this adds up, you might not want to rent a vehicle. A great option is to do public transportation. You can take trains or buses. Another option is going to be using car services, whether it's a taxi or Uber or Lyft or any of the other different types of services out there. It may be a great option to just use public transportation while you're there. Take the train or bus from point A to point B. But if you're going a long distance, just request a ride from one of the ride services and they can take you there. That saves you a lot of money. I know today we just kind of skimmed over booking rental cars, and really there's not much to it. You go on the website, you put in your date, you put in what type of car you want, and then you just book. That's kind of the gist of it. So there really wasn't too much of a point in walking you through actually booking it. But I'm hoping that this video will give you a few things to think about before you book your rental car. That way you know whether or not booking a rental car is right for you, and whether or not you want a specific vehicle or not. If you have any questions, then feel free to leave a comment below and I'll try to answer any questions you have. If there's anything I didn't cover that you might be concerned about, feel free to let me know and I'll try to make a video about that. And if you like this video, feel free to subscribe and give a thumbs up. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye!